Our History Council was founded 4 years ago with the intention of helping our history students pursue and develop their interests and ideas outside of the classroom. During this time, the council has held over 15 question and answer forums with conservationists, archivists, academics, and other professionals in an attempt to bridge the gap between student artists and student art historians. The council developed an artist talk series, a contemporary arts review blog, as well as the first ever student-led academic conference at Columbia, which was called Social Class and Art. It was held last February during the College Art Association conference. Before Ryan introduces this conference, I'd like to invite all of you to ask Casey Champion, Casey Winkleman, Ryan, or myself, or anyone that's presenting or introducing people about more information about the conference. This is an academic and professional resource for our historians and artists alike. And it's kind of a unique opportunity to connect with each other across disciplines. So yeah, you should ask us about anything. We'd like to know what you would like to see next year as we carry on. So, Ryan?
Good evening. So on behalf of our History Council and Columbia College at large as well, I'd like to welcome all of you to our second annual art conference. Our theme this year is On the Cusp, and it's centering around emerging themes and theories and things that are in the making and have yet to be defined. And so our artists are all just diving into their own worlds and are exploring things that aren't necessarily written in the textbook yet because they're in the making of our history. Also, if you would like a catalog, you can sign up right over there, so go for that. So our first panel is composed of E.J. Hill, Matthew Mullane, Michelle Renard, who will hopefully be here soon, and also Gretchen Holmes. David Freeberg once said, "The imagination that lingers is the imagination that reconstitutes. By exploring what it means to be alive, recomposing the dynamics of experience, melting boundaries between life and performance, and embracing the ambiguous, the following presenters deliver theories which challenge the ever-evolving definition of what art is, and therefore what is truth." Led by instinct, each speaker offers their own uniquely iconoclastic perspective on theory and bravely begin to build the platforms for imaginations to launch from. The first member of the panel is E.J. Hill, a student of Columbia College. E.J. redefines storytelling and elucidates the relation between consciousness and his art. Matthew Mullane of School of the Art Institute of Chicago investigates the ear's role in creating the experience of art, forcing you to reconsider the dynamics of it completely. Following Mr. Mullane is Michelle Renard, a graduate of Southern Illinois University. She delivers outstanding research which illuminates the effects of blurring performance into life, summoning curiosity to where one begins and the other ends. Completing our first panel is Gretchen Holmes of University of Chicago. Ms. Holmes also furnishes a voice on ambiguity. Rejecting the demeaning nature of pigeonholing artists, Gretchen develops theories on the positive consequences when labels are subtracted from experiencing art. So, with radical views on art for the new world, this panel takes us on a journey to the core of theory, where being alive and the creation of art bend together, thriving in their purest forms. So, I'd like to welcome E.J.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you, Art History Council, and thank you everyone for being here, despite the weather. Okay, so my name is E.J. Hill, and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about my work. But first I'm going to start with a story. I guess I realized that I was kind of onto something or figuring something out for myself when I had a conversation with a friend of about 10 years. I started to get into, performance work more and more, and I think the deeper I got into that, the further apart we grew from each other. And so I was just joking around one day. I was like, yeah, man, you know what? gonna stick a fried chicken leg in my butt and call it art. So he didn't really vibe on that at all. He wasn't into it. He got really angry and was like, "That's not art, that's crap, and if you did that, I don't know if I could ever talk to you again." And it was kind of a a kick in the stomach, because here I was, one, just being like, not totally serious, but kind of. And a friend of 10 years just willing to throw that all away, because of the things that I was beginning to pursue. So at the time, I was, I was looking at work in school and on my own that kind of dealt with the body in ways that weren't always, I guess, deemed acceptable. But for instance, Shigeru Kubota, vagina painting in 1965, that happened well before I made some crack about sodomy and fried chicken. Carolee Schneemann, 10 years later in 1975 with Interior Scroll, where she extracts a text from her vagina and reads it aloud during the performance. 1978, Robert Mapplethorpe self-portrait, just 3 years later after Carolee Schneemann. And skipping ahead a little bit, in 1995, Keith Bodwee with Purple Squirt. And so, I'm looking at these things, and in my head, fried chicken in my butt, art, like all of that made sense to me. There was just so much there, and but not between us. Like there was this disconnect between like the world that I was living in and the world he was living in. So around this time, I guess, I was like, I'm gonna take this and stick it so far up my ass. Like not only are you not gonna wanna ever talk to me again, but you'll wish you'd never met me. But then I was like, no, I don't really wanna do that. I'm not, that, like it's not out of spite. So I decided to jump in a different way. Instead of from the high dive, I just kind of like hugged the side. But this is a performance of mine from 2009 titled Regrowing. And this came out of, that frustration of, I guess, distancing myself from a certain past comprised of people, places, and things that I felt I no longer had a connection to. And the deeper I got into making work like this, I noticed that there was a shift between the things that I was doing, the people I was surrounding myself with, and the spaces I occupied, and the things that I was like leaning towards. So I shaved my entire body from head to toe in a gallery to illustrate that change that I was going through, that huge shift and transformation in my life. Just basically blowing the structure up from the base instead of going in and chipping away one by one. I just almost a clean slate, basically, a new growth, if you will. And so I started to again think about the work that I'm making. I don't necessarily consider very radical, because as I showed, there has been there's art historical precedent to some of the stuff that I'm doing. Like there's this language that is being spoken, and I'm trying to contribute my own voice to these works. But I think what's interesting about working this way is that we can sit here at this conference and look at these images and maybe or maybe not accept this as art, but the second I take it out into the streets, it becomes something else. Maybe it's art, maybe it's just living, maybe it's a guy who's like slowly losing his mind. So this piece is called "This is an Imaginary Border," and it was one of my first public performances where I took a black roll of duct tape and stretched it across State Street via Madison, which is where the north side of Chicago intersects the south side of Chicago, or separates from, basically the north separates from south at Madison across state. And so I wanted to play around with that idea, and because these two sides of Chicago are very, it's a part of the same city, but they have very different relationships to one another, largely based on race and class. And not being a Chicago native coming into this, it just kind of shook me at my foundation. So I started exploring making work about people, the public, and if I'm going to make that work,